Hey, welcome back to the channel, YouTube fam, man. How y'all been? Man? It's your brother Toby, coming at you guys again with a new video. All right. So again, if you're new here and it's your first time seeing me, I'm Brother Toby. This is my channel, and if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe now. All right, hit the bell notification button so that way every time I go live, I can always keep giving you guys fresh content. I'm trying to do this thing where I do like a video every Sunday or whatnot, all right? Lately, I've been in this Narcissism series or whatnot, and so at the end of the day, man, it's been blessing a lot of people. So to my people who've been, viewing me faithfully, man, listen, man, God bless you guys so much, man, because you guys have been showing me some love in the comments with the feedback, and just the fact that the things that I've experienced in my life is really helping you guys out, as well as it's helping me. It's therapy for me. And any way that I can, be a service or a blessing to you all, that's what I'm here for, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm a strong exponent in the fact that we don't go through life on our own, for our own. It's always to help somebody else out. You know what I mean? Somebody else can always have it worse. And so at the end of the day, man, I pray that my life is a book or a Bible to someone out here watching who don't read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this topic. And this topic, I want to, so forgive me if you hear my kids in the background. They're out here at the table, got somebody else in the room, you know what I'm saying? They chilling, playing TV or watching TV, playing the Call of Duty, whatever. They got my worship music in here. So, I try to keep a very, very, holistic environment. I try to, you know what I'm saying? So, but it is what it is though. So that being said, in this video segment, I want to talk about trauma bond, all right? Now, this definition has many faces to it. Has different forms depending on who you are to the narcissist, okay? So in this video, it's called Narcissism, what is trauma bonds? I'm gonna kind of go into how you break from it, what's it look like, and ultimately how insidious it is, you know what I'm saying? I want you guys to realize the severity of the danger of being in constant connection or contact with a narcissist. It is a downward spiral, okay? There's nothing good that I've ever heard people say about it. And I was saying for this past year alone, the stories of Jada Pinkett Smith and her, marriage with Will Smith and how broken up a man he is, due to her own doing and her failure to be accountable. And again, which actually, thank you, Lord, that's actually a trauma bond right there. Which I'll get into in a second. And then you got Amber Heard and whatnot and Johnny Depp situation that took place earlier this year. All right, so what is trauma bond? Trauma bond is a, excuse me. Oh, I am trying to get rid of this, cold that I had. It's like, on his way out the door, literally. So my voice is doing better. Still some slight congestion, but it's literally trying to push its way out my body. Glory to God. Flu bomb, right? Good stuff. But again, it's a lot of fluff, so please forgive me there. But the one thing I want to say is when it comes to trauma bonds are very unhealthy attachments that the empath can develop for the narcissist. Now, as a narcissist further, pushes out their agenda, they further their purpose in total annihilation of the empath and destruction. The empath and his or her genuineness or generosity will always try to overlook the narcissistic faults, overlook the gaslighting, overlook the rage and rampage and all that, right? So here's what it may look like. And the reason why I'm saying that it takes different forms and formats, because again, I'm a man, right? So for me, trauma bond it appeared differently in one of my older relationships that I was in, from time past. So whether you're a woman or a man or a family member or a child, this is why I say trauma bond, depending on who you are to the narcissist, it can present itself differently. So one of the ways that you can recognize trauma bonds, and this is the first point, the way to recognize it is this, right? So, let's say that in a child, child's life, they may say, depending on the parent, because it can, narcissism has no preference. Non-narcissistic anyway, the NPD disorder, it has no preference, right? It attaches to whoever is exposed to a severe traumatic experience in their life, and it hinders them from emotionally growing as an adult. Certain age groups, age brackets, you should be developing healthily, you know what I'm saying? Not in a sense where it's traumatic due to some adverse variable that takes place in a person's life, and it warps them, it holds them down. And this is ultimately what narcissism is. So in a trauma bond, it may look like a physical abuse. And let's say that, if you're a woman, right, and you have a narcissistic boyfriend or husband, he may punch you, he may put his hands on you, and to reason with that. Now, anyone with a healthy mind, anyone with the right state of mind would say, yo, why is he putting his hands on you? You know what I'm saying? You need to cut him off and leave him. Here's how an empath, I would say, will co-sign that behavior. Because all it is manipulative, is gaslighting. Because the boyfriend might be like, well, if you never would have burned the chicken, I never would have had to put my hands on you. Well, if you weren't late, like I told you earlier, we'd have made it to the movies on time. And then so, of course, when people on the outside are looking in, like, hey, Nancy, why do you have a black eye? Oh, Troy, he just, punched me in my face. And to the friend, like, what happened? What caused him to do that, right? So then she may be like, well, because I was late and, I deserved it. So literally it's a pass that gives the narcissist more and more empowerment. Because mind you, these are very, very sick, demented people. They crave power, they lust for it. So depending on if you're a significant other, a husband or wife, it's very similar. If you're a child, it's the same thing. It's like a passive behavior in order to allow the narcissist to continue to push their agenda. You know what I'm saying? And what happens over time is, like, let's say that y'all, go to some family counseling or marital counseling, and now the narcissist puts on this face, because mind you, they have no personality. They mimic and copy whoever is a powerful person to them. You know what I'm saying? They have no originality. Everything is borrowed, everything is copied. You know what I'm saying? So they sit before a counselor, and then, Nancy's telling Troy, basically talking about what happens in their relationship. And here you have this empath who is, literally, crying out, and Troy's like, oh no, well, sometimes, yeah, I can be real, a little hasty, but I don't put my hands on her. I don't do these things. I don't know what she's talking about. Totally, like, two-faced, whole different, ball game. You know what I mean? To the empath, you're like, what? No, like, you deserve to be in jail. You deserve to be, dealt with, right? So what happens to the empath, here's the second point of them too, and how I would say trauma bond is indefinitely a downward spiral, because here's what happens to the empath, right? Now, as the longer you're in these scenarios, the harder it is to break away from it. You know what I'm saying? So kind of imagine, like, you have two pieces of duct tape and you smack them together, and days, months, and maybe even years go on, right? So then wait till year number X, whatever, and then you decide to peel it off. And you know how tough it is to peel something that's already been bonded for so long? And even when you do peel it off, guess what? There's residue in both pieces. So this is why I say be especially careful when you decide to have sex with a narcissist, because there is a thing called soul ties, all right? And as I said before on my channel, I am a Christian, and I do believe that there's healthy and organic soul ties. There's a soul tie that happens between a husband and his wife. There's a spiritual bonding that takes place, as well as spiritually, mentally, and physically. You know what I mean? So that's that. But in the sense of an empath and a narcissist, it's very dangerous, because what will begin to happen over time is that as you allow these behaviors to happen, because these are all unsatisfactory behaviors. There should be no way that somebody should be berating you from your parents or your workplace. Y'all could be at a party, and the narcissist dumps their whole lunch tray or dinner tray on you, embarrass you in front of everybody, and then people will come to see about you, and again, you're endorsing that or you're condoning that behavior. It's totally toxic, So again, one of the ways to recognize this is to deal with it firsthand. Call it as what it is, period. Trauma bond is literally a unhealthy attachment to the negative in the relationship. Because nowadays, in this more modernized time, there's a lot of people who love toxicity. They love abusive relationships, and they think it's normal. It's a normalcy, especially in kids' upbringing and father-mother relationships. And it's not how God wants it to be, not at all. Trauma bonds are crazy. There's somebody I know that, they don't have a great relationship with their parent, and this parent berates the person from time to time again. And the only time that the parent wants to have a relationship with that child is only when that parent needs something. That is an example of what a trauma bond is. Now, mind you, people have told this child or told this person over time again that this person is not great, man. They have a history of doing this, right? So on point number 2, let me get to point number 3. What happens is like literally a roller coaster ride. That's what trauma bonds is, right? And like in one of my older relationships, it'd be days and times where now as an empath, because again, narcissism was new to me. I didn't know the name of it, but I knew what the traits and symptoms were. Like I remember one time for, I think it was, thank you, Lord. It was Valentine's Day. I remember going to this nice fancy place and spent a good amount of money on some seafood, whatever, right? I had a glass of Moscato, some good wine, whatever, and got some flowers, man. And I brought it back to one of my ex-girlfriends at the time, and couldn't find out. All I got was complaints. I don't like seafood, and it's tore my heart up, man. Like I think I literally had a tear in my eye, like, but I didn't cry in front of her. On somewhere else. Like, man, I sat here, waited 2 hours for this meal, spent money I didn't have in order to make you feel good, Then eventually, like days later, like one of my exes was like, well, I do appreciate the effort, and that's all it was. And so what happened was, it'd be times in which and where the empath, and the point is, there's times in which you as the empath can try to do things to make your narcissist happy, right? But due to their inability to be grateful or appreciative for anything, what happens is that they ended up just not being satisfied. So it's like you're feeding this bottomless pit, or you're on this roller coaster ride, right? And then boom, y'all going up. He or she may be happy, y'all doing good, and then a triggering moment triggers them to go into a rage, and boom, as an empath, you're playing damage control, and this is all this is trauma bonding. You know what I'm saying? It's a very unhealthy cycle of things that take place, right? And ultimately, what happens as an empath is that point number 3 is you die to yourself. You're killing your soul by this vampire who's constantly playing this insidious, manipulative game with you, because they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And the fact is, you know what's funny? When I walked away from one of my older relationships, everybody had already knew what was going on around me, but me being the person that God has wired me to be, and point number 3 is this too, also, forgive yourself. Thank you, Lord. I want to say that to somebody. Learn how to forgive yourself, because what happens is when we're in these environments, we tend to, take on the burden and the whole world on our shoulders, right? And what happens? We end up wearing ourselves out. We get sick. We get ill. I recall one point in time, maybe a few years ago, you know what I'm saying, I went to the doctor for my physical, and come to find out I had a heart attack without even knowing it. And I'm like, what? Because the doctor was telling me, like your blood pressure was really high. And then granted, I do take some supplements for weight management, like fat burners, if I want to cut, even though I'm a pretty fit guy. I have an image of how I want to look. And of course, with certain caffeinated items, it'll accelerate your heart rate only in the sense of you're working out and you want to shed that extra weight off. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, as I was taking that stuff, lo and behold, during the time I was to get my physical by one of the doctors at the time, some years ago, he said, Mr. Toby, your numbers qualified you to have a heart attack. It scared the lights out of me. And I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, well, I eat good, I sip, wine here and there. So what else could be going on? But then it was because I was in that very narcissistic relationship at the time. That added stress to me. So if you go back to the videos from weeks ago, empaths are very, very highly sensitive people. We're spiritually sensitive, we're physically sensitive, not in the sense of being soft or timid, but we absorb all the shock value around us. And so we're in close proximity or in a relationship with a narcissist, these things are like fuel to the fire. They factor in your health. And I'm speaking to y'all from experience. This is why I say, if you have an opportunity to cut off any narcissistic relationship, go ahead and do so, because as a living witness, I'm telling you now that for my heart, for me to even have been, considered having high blood pressure, and being African American, that's common amongst us because of what we eat. That's why I'm very conscious of what I put into my body. You know what I'm saying? And I highly encourage exercise. But again, don't beat yourself up for what you didn't know. Don't feel like you're being stupid or being an idiot. No, listen. At the end of the day, if you don't know, you don't know. That's fine. You see what I'm saying? But another thing I want to say is this, in point number 3, then I'm going to close down the video. I went a little over my time, Max, so forgive me, guys. But I was very, very passionate about this stuff, man. So again, I highly encourage you to break away while you can and educate yourself, get healing. Because do I have certain PTSDs? Yeah, I do. It's called baggage, and everybody has baggage, but the different thing that I chose to do is to get counseling. I have a therapist. We still talk to this day. I think they sent me a text last week, checking up on them, see how they're doing. And a relationship with Jesus. People, I've heard it said this, that people say that time is the best healer. No, it's not. Because here's what time does. Time only has the point at which the hurt occurred, and here's the time gap. Now, if you're a Christian, right, you gotta let go and let God. It's easier said than done. You know what I'm saying, depending on the offense. But as a Christian, I've already rationalized in my mind that I forgave God, because we tend to blame God. That's why a lot of people are atheists, because they're mad at God for something that he wasn't responsible for, but because he's an all-powerful being, he should have done something when they deem fit. And that's not how it is. God is not our genie, but it's a different bar for a different day. Forgive the person, God, the person, and yourself. They may or may not acknowledge the fact that they offended you, but the narcissist knows what they're doing. It's just that they have the inability to actually care and feel empathy. That's what it is, arrested development. And so for me, I block those people. I cut people off. And this version of me that's been healed, post-healing, having a core group of people where I can just cry and vent to, they're there. So again, back to like what I said in my last video, there's a power in the abundance of having counselors, and good company of people. You know what I mean? Just use discernment, use wisdom as who you should reveal certain details to. But at the end of the day, man, I'm a much better person than I was years ago. Glory be to God. And so it's because God literally highlighted people for me to talk to. As men, sometimes we have issues with our pride and ego in certain cases, like, we're Superman, we can take on the whole world. Yeah, we can, but at the end of the day, man, you got to help somebody carry your burdens. And so forgive yourself, move on, and if you have an opportunity to cut off the empath or cut off the narcissist, do so. Go no contact, go whatever, block them. They're going to find ways to try to, create a trauma bond or to hoover you. You know what I'm saying? Or basically bait you back into a conversation. But you got to use discernment and wisdom from what you experienced. You know how you felt. Your story is valid. Theirs isn't. That's why they all trying to gaslight you and project their anger or resentment back onto you because you abandoned them, because you wised up and you moved away. And that's what happens to me to this day. Like, I didn't do any of my exes wrong. I can say that proudly and accurately. But I didn't do no wrong. But in any sense, you know, they're like, nah, you did wrong. Okay, cool. It's God's story, it's your story, and it's my story. And I'm a ride with God. And I know that I'm responsible enough as an adult to admit my wrongs. You know, that's what being an adult is like, is having a tough conversation. So, man, I'm so blessed to have you guys watch. I pray that this video bless somebody today. And yeah, man, so hopefully this helps. But thank you guys for watching the channel, man. Again, more content coming. If you want to see me do more of these videos, please drop some comments there. All right, and just let me know like what else you want to see in the near future. But I felt like the Holy Spirit wanted me to speak on this, so I just want to obey the Spirit of God. So love you guys, man. Peace and God bless.